Well, the writ has dropped, and just like an old George Jones song,
well, the race is on.
Welcome to my channel, y'all. I hope you're having a great day. Well, of course, the big news today is that Marx Carney has called an election. Yes, the writ has dropped and the Governor General has dissolved Parliament, and we will be going to the polls on April 28th. And of course, the timing of this election feeds right into a master Liberal plan. But before we get to that, let's go to just outside Rideau Hall, where Marx Carney actually made the announcement that we are now in an election.
2 months ago, I was at a rink in Edmonton where I'd learned to play hockey. And that's about as far as you can get from the grandeur of Rideau Hall. And I was there because I was putting up my hand to run for the leadership of the Liberal Party of Canada. And I was doing that because I knew our country needed to take action. We needed to act to fix our economy. We needed to act to fight the Americans. We needed to act to deal with Donald Trump's tariffs.
Well, let's talk about the timing of this. 2 months ago, so January 23rd, somewhere around there, he decided that he was going to join in on the Liberal race to fight Donald Trump, to fight the tariffs, and to fix the economy. The economy that his party ruined. And Donald Trump was in the midst of giving us some reprieves on the tariffs. He was saying that if we work to strengthen our border and address the fentanyl and the organized crime and the people crossing across the border illegally, that we could possibly avoid those tariffs. But instead of working towards that goal, no, he just went into the election thinking, hey, we can use this to get reelected. We can fight Donald Trump. It's not about fixing the border. It's not about helping Canadians. It's about winning another term. Yes, that's what he just said there, ladies and gentlemen.
We eliminated the tax on carbon for consumers, for small businesses, and for farmers to end the division that it was creating amongst Canadians. Because we are stronger together. We reversed the increase in the capital gains tax so that builders are encouraged to take risks and be rewarded when they succeed. When I met with the premiers in Ottawa on Friday, we agreed to eliminate barriers to trade and mobility inside our country. And the federal government is leading by committing to legislate the end of all federal barriers to interprovincial trade by July 1st. Together, we will push to create one Canadian economy by Canada Day, because we are stronger together.
If that seems a little disjointed there, it's because I skipped over the French part. Now, listen to what he just said. Basically, he's just ripped off every policy decision that Pierre Poilievre has spoken about. So he's taken Pierre Poilievre's platform and he's trying to package it as if it's a liberal platform. It's not. It's a ripoff.
This past week, we acted to protect workers, using the proceeds of our retaliatory tariffs against America's unjustified trade actions. We acted to unlock major infrastructure projects and get them moving rapidly, including clean and conventional energy, critical minerals, and new trade corridors with reliable trading partners. We acted to create new supports for farmers and businesses during this trade war. We expanded dental care for millions of more Canadians. And we took all of these actions and more to create the foundation to build a stronger Canada.
Well, I'd like to correct him there. It's not about building a stronger Canada. Had they been concerned about a stronger Canada, they would have been working on many of these initiatives for decades, but they haven't been. They're just faced with the prospect of losing an election if they don't do something. And because Pierre Poilievre's policies are good and we're gaining a lot of support, they've decided to rip them off. So let's be perfectly honest, Marx Carney. You don't have an actual original thought. You're just using what has been working for the Conservatives to your advantage.
There is so much more to do to secure Canada, to invest in Canada, to build Canada, to unite Canada. That's why I'm asking for a strong, positive mandate from my fellow Canadians. I've just requested that the Governor-General dissolve Parliament and call an election for April 28th. And she has agreed. We are facing the most significant crisis of our lifetimes because of President Trump's unjustified trade actions and his threats to our sovereignty. Our response must be to build a strong economy and a more secure Canada.
Oh, really, Marx, Carney? Does that mean that if Donald Trump wasn't doing all of these things to support the United States, that we didn't need a strong economy, that we didn't need to protect ourselves, that we could just rely on them forever and ever to support us and to protect us? That really shouldn't be your reason. It should be because Canada deserves this and should have had this all along. We should have had a strong economy and we should have been able to protect ourselves all along.
As part of that strategy, today I'm proposing a middle-class tax cut to help all working Canadians get ahead. We will cut the lowest income tax bracket by 1 percentage point. For a middle-class tax cut that will benefit a two-income family by up to $825 a year.
1%. Seriously? 1%. That's all you're going to cut taxes by? 1%? For a two-income family, being able to save up to $825 per year. Oh, isn't that just great? Well, let's think about that. Saving $825 per year. What is that? Like just over $2 a day? I can save just over $2 a day because of this tax cut. Of course, it has cost me a lot more than that in inflation. Inflation being a hidden tax because you've driven up the cost of everything. You've encouraged Trudeau to print money. Yeah, thanks a lot, Marx Carney. I'm sure that just over $2 a day is really going to help out.
I'm asking Canadians for a strong, positive mandate to deal with President Trump and to build a new Canadian economy that works for everyone.
So there you have it, Canada. He's let the cat out of the bag. They've created a problem with Trump so that they can fight an election against Trump. Because before this problem with Trump arose, they had to fight Pierre Poilievre. They had to fight Pierre Poilievre's policies, his platform, and they were losing. But they created this problem with Trump. They didn't want to solve it. They wanted to make it worse so that they could fight Trump. And because of Trump derangement syndrome, because of a lot of people in Canada just hating Trump, especially those in Eastern Canada, they thought it would be a great election strategy. And you know what? It is for the Liberals. But in the end, it will be horrible for Canada.
Because I know we need change. Big change. Positive change. You see, my generation was fortunate. For us, there were more opportunities and life was more affordable. You had to work hard, but you could get ahead. That was the bargain. But for the generations that have followed, they're working just as hard or even harder than we did. But they're struggling to pay the rent, to put groceries on the table, and to save for their kids' educations.
So 59-year-old Gen Xer Marx Carney wants to say that his generation had a far easier time than the current generation. Well, probably true. But who was in power over the last several decades? What generation was in power over the last several decades? What generation were voting socialist policies in Canada, Marx, Carnage, Carney? And why do you still want to be in power to do even more damage? Well, just look at who's caused these problems, people. It's not the generation. There's a lot of good people in Generation X and the generations before that. It's the philosophy of the people that we keep voting in. And Marx, Carnage, Carney is one of the major problems. I've had just about all I can stand listening to this guy. So let's go to another press conference that was held prior to this announcement. Let's go to see what an actual good public speaker has to say on all of this. Let's go to see what Pierre Poilievre has to say about this election call.
Thank you very much, everyone, for being here today. Our little munchkins, I think that my little girl got bored and left me, so I'm going to have to give the speech again when we get home. And that there's Cruz. He's, as you can see, he's a fighter pilot, and we have our pet penguin with us today too. We're happy to be here to launch our campaign to restore Canada's promise, and to do it on this very beautiful day. Today, the Liberals are asking for a fourth term in power, after swapping Justin Trudeau for his economic advisor and hand-picked successor, Mark Carney. But after the lost Liberal decade, the question is whether Canadians can afford a fourth Liberal term. After these out-of-touch Liberals inflated housing costs, drove up the cost of food, pushed 2 million people to food banks, unleashed crime on our streets, ruined our immigration system, blocked our resources, sent $500 billion to the United States, and made our economy more reliant on the Americans than ever before? Or is it time to put Canada first for a change, with a new Conservative government that will axe taxes, honor hard work, build homes, cut taxes, lock up criminals, secure our borders, unleash resources to bring home our jobs, and stand up to Donald Trump from a position of strength? Now, on that subject, I know a lot of people are worried, angry, and anxious, and with good reason, as a result of the president's unacceptable threats against our country. You worry about your job and the sovereignty of our nation. And you're angry at the feeling of betrayal that these unacceptable words and tariffs have made us all experience. I share your anger, and I share the worry for our future. But I also draw great resolve in knowing that we can transform the anxiety and anger into action. First of all, let me be clear. We will never be an American state. We will always be a sovereign and self-reliant country. The action we must take is to become that nation that's strong, self-reliant, and sovereign, capable of standing on its own 2 feet and standing up to the Americans. We will stare down this unprovoked threat with steely resolve, because, be assured, Canadians are tough, we are hardy, and we stand up for ourselves. I will protect Canada, and I will always put our country first. But before I tell you how, let me tell you why. This country's given me everything I have. I know my story wouldn't have been possible in any other country in the world. I was born to a 16-year-old single mother who put me up for adoption to 2 school teachers. But they taught me that in Canada, despite humble beginnings, I could achieve anything I wanted. I got into politics to protect and preserve that promise. And that promise means that if you work hard, you get a house, a nice house, on a safe street, protected by brave troops, under a proud flag. Now, that promise is broken after a decade of Liberal government. Liberal taxes drove up food prices 37% faster than in the United States. Housing costs have more than doubled. Single moms go to bed hungry, worried how they will feed their children in the morning. Liberals have driven up our housing costs by inflating demand with out-of-control money printing and immigration, while at the same time blocking supply with massive bureaucracies that don't let builders build. So for the first time in the history of Canada, our young people cannot afford homes. Open borders, liberal crime and drug laws have unleashed violence, disorder, and deadly overdoses. 10 years of Liberals hiking taxes and blocking resource projects has pushed $500 billion to the United States, given us the worst growth in the entire G7, and all of this was before the tariffs of Donald Trump. What's more, our nation is more divided than ever before because the liberal, radical, post-national, borderless, and globalist ideology has weakened our nation. Now, desperate for a fourth term, Liberals have replaced Justin Trudeau with his economic advisor and hand-picked successor, Mark Carney. But a Liberal is a Liberal is a Liberal. It's the same old Liberal MPs, the same Liberal ministers, the same Liberal advisors, the same Liberal elites, the same broken Liberal promises of the last 10 years. We cannot afford another lost Liberal decade. We need to put Canada first for a change, with a new Conservative government to axe taxes, reward work, unleash entrepreneurs, harvest our resources, make things here, build homes for our youth, secure our borders, rebuild our military, honor our history, and raise our flag. It starts with a big bring-it-home tax cut on work, investment, energy, and home building. We'll lower taxes to bring home businesses and to make sure Canadians bring home more of their paychecks. And that starts with axing the carbon tax, the entire tax, a tax that the Liberals, with Carney's enthusiastic support, brought in for 7 years and increased over and over. A tax that is still in law, despite the government hiding it from gas stations for the 30 days leading up to the election. A tax they will bring back bigger than ever before if re-elected. And on this point, Mr. Carney and Mr. Trump are in total agreement. They both want to tax Canadian industry. Mr. Carney's carbon tax and Donald Trump's tariffs will destroy Canadian industry, pushing jobs south. But I won't let that happen. A new Conservative government will repeal the carbon tax law, and we will axe the tax for everyone, for everything, for good, forever, and for real. We will also take the sales tax off new homes and incentivize municipalities to speed up permits, free up land, and cut development charges so that we can build homes and restore the dream of home ownership. We will bring home our resource jobs for a change. That means repealing Liberal No New Pipelines Law C-69, lifting the Liberal cap on energy that Carney still supports, quickly approving LNG plants, mines, and other major projects. New Canada First building zones will pre-approve sites for construction so that businesses can get busy working and hiring and building and developing and spend no more time filling out paperwork. With a national pipeline like the one the Liberals blocked not long ago, we can go around the American market, send our oil to Europe, break European dependence on Putin, and break our dependence on the United States of America. A double win, 2 birds, 1 stone. We'll knock down interprovincial trade barriers to have one big, open, free market across our country, moving goods, services, people, nationwide. That will bring home our jobs and bring us together. We'll also bring home safety to our communities by stopping the crime for a change. That means repealing catch and release Liberal laws and imposing mandatory jail time on repeat offenders, banning hard drugs, and offering recovery to bring our loved ones home drug-free. We'll cap immigration and stop the radical Century Initiative, which seeks to almost triple our population to 100 million people. A crazy idea still endorsed by Liberals and their top advisors. That will end when I am Prime Minister. We will also keep fraudsters, and criminals out of our country, and we will crack down on bogus claims. On immigration, like everything else, we will put Canada first for a change. Our troops will have support Our military will be rebuilt. We will have new icebreakers, new fighter jets, new surveillance aircraft, a brand new base, the first base in the Arctic since the Cold War in Iqaluit. And we will back our veterans to ensure they have good lives after they fought for our country. They remind us that Canada is tough, rugged, strong, hardy. We don't go looking for a fight, but we're ready if one comes looking for us. None of this will be easy, but making and defending Canada wasn't easy either. And with change, there's hope. So I say, to the struggling single mother who worries how she will feed her kids, hope is on the way. To the 35-year-old, still living in mom's basement but dreaming of owning his own place and starting a family, change is on the way. To the seniors choosing between eating and heating. And to all those who wonder what happened to the country that they knew and love, change and hope are both on the way. A new Conservative government will restore Canada's promise, the promise that anyone from anywhere can do anything, that hard work gets you a great life in a beautiful home, on a safe street under a proud flag. To preserve that flag and uphold its promise, we must work together, fight together, and win together for our people, for our land, for our home, for Canada first, for a change. Thank you.
When you listen to Pierre Poilievre speak and you compare it to how Mark Carney speaks and how Justin Trudeau spoke before he left office, I don't know how you can suggest that anyone is more suited for the job than Pierre Poilievre. And listen to the content of Pierre Poilievre's speeches. He's given a clear direction for the future of Canada. What is Mark Carney doing? Well, he's ripping off almost every idea that Pierre has been talking about for the past several years. So who do you trust? Well, personally, I trust Pierre a lot more than I would trust any Liberal, because he's going to get it done. The Liberals have never gotten anything done for Canada. They've always caused us more and more harm with their socialist policies. So who do you think Donald Trump would rather deal with, Pierre Poilievre or a Liberal? Who do you think it would be easier for him to manipulate? Let's go to the Ingraham Angle and see what Donald Trump has to say about that in his own words.
They have a $60 billion trade deficit. China has like a $300 billion last year. You said it goes up when you add it all up, it's $1 trillion.
Way over 100, Canada. And here's my problem with Canada. Canada was meant to be the 51st state because we subsidize Canada by $200 billion a year. We don't need their cars. We don't need their lumber. We have a lot of lumber. We freed it up, as you know, last week. We're freeing it up so that you can actually cut down a tree without being, given the death penalty. Because what these radical environmentalists have done to our country, but we freed it up. But we don't need their lumber. We don't need their energy. We don't need anything. We certainly don't want their automobiles. They make a lot of millions of automobiles are sent in. I'd rather have them made in Michigan. I'd rather have them made in South Carolina or any one of our...
But you're tougher with Canada than you are with some of our biggest adversaries.
Only because it's meant to be our 51st state. And
okay, but...
but listen to this for a second.
We need their territory. They have territorial advantage. We're not going to let them get close to China.
Look,
right?
I deal with every country, indirectly or directly. One of the nastiest countries to deal with is Canada. The people that... Now, this was Trudeau. The people that good old Justin, I call him Governor Trudeau, his people were nasty, and they weren't telling the truth. They never told the truth. You know that, they'd say, well, we don't charge. Well, they do. They charge tremendous. They charge tremendous. And if you look at dairy products, what they've done to our farmers, I'd go up to Iowa, I'd go up to different places, Nebraska, and they would always complain about Canada, how they get ripped off. Do you know that Canada has a 250% tariff? 250, nobody knows that. They charge us numbers that are crazy. We have a very big deficit with Canada, and there's no reason, much more, we have much more.
I don't think so.
Just so you understand, we subsidize Canada, and I like Canada. I love Canada. I love Wayne
now
Gretzky.
the Liberal guy,
I love his wife.
The Liberal
I love
Party is going to win now in the next election,
I don't
most
care.
likely. And they were down and out.
I don't
Isn't that
care.
going to make them more hostile to us and possibly
No, I'd
open
rather
the
deal
door
with a liberal than a
for
conservative.
China, closer to Canada, and that would really put us in a bind.
The conservative that's running is stupidly no friend of mine. I don't know him, but he said negative things. So when he says negative things, I couldn't care less. I think it's easier to deal, actually, with a liberal. And maybe they're going to win, but I don't really care. It doesn't matter to me at all.
So your end game is what with them?
My end game is I don't want to have a big deficit. I don't want to see the United States of America, and you say 60 and I say 200, but it doesn't matter. I don't want us to pay 60 or $200 billion to a country that if they were a state, think of this, it would be our biggest, most beautiful, it would be great. This state, it would be cherished. We'd take care of it. The people would pay half what they're paying right now. Canada pays very little for defense. They think we're going to defend them.
We protect them.
What?
We protect them.
We protect them. We protect them. Do you know in NATO they pay less than anybody else? In everything else, they go, we're in the process of buying 48 icebreakers. All of a sudden I see Canada's involved where they're going to get a piece of them. I say, what are they paying? And so I got tired of it. Here's the story. I had one of the most successful economies. I had the most successful economy in the history of our country in my first 4 years. We did a great job. Largest tax cuts ever, largest everything. We had right to try where people were able to use drugs. Stupidly, for many years, they weren't able to use, the far-reaching drugs because they weren't approved yet. Somebody's terminally ill, they couldn't do it. With me, they can do it. We did so many things. We rebuilt our military. Canada doesn't pay for military. They don't give any, they give us nothing. And they are the worst people to negotiate with of everybody.
You
they
got
had
them with
the worst.
USMCA. You finally got them around the edge on that, though.
No, I got them there, and USMCA is good, but they cheat. An agreement's good, but they cheat. And Mexico cheats also.
So that's what Donald Trump thinks of Canadians. He thinks that we're a bunch of cheaters. But remember, he's only ever dealt with liberals. So of course he's dealing with cheaters and liars. He's dealt with the Trudeau government. He wasn't empowered to deal with the Harper government beforehand. He was only ever dealing with the cheating liberals. And that's how he thinks all Canadian politicians are. I think that if he gave Pierre Poilievre a chance, he would be pleasantly surprised. So of course he wants the liberals to continue because he knows he can manipulate them. He did that in the first USMCA and the CUSMA, however you want to say it. And he got a pretty good deal out of that because he manipulated them. Of course, Chrystia Freeland thinks that she got a good deal out of it, but it's Chrystia Freeland. She doesn't really know much about finance. And because of that, Donald Trump knows that he can manipulate the liberals and get a better deal. He can get a win out of a win-loss situation. He's not even looking at the possibility of a win-win. He's not truly looking at the possibility of working with the Canadian government to benefit both countries because he doesn't trust us, because he doesn't believe it's possible. And that's because he's not dealt with a reasonable conservative government. So what was the Liberal strategy to maintain power before Jagmeet Singh pulled his support? And how did that change after Jagmeet Singh pulled his support? Well, it really didn't change at all. They were always planning on going into a leadership race before the next election, except this time they didn't have the summer break to rely on. You see, if Jagmeet Singh had supported the Liberals through the spring session, they would have had the summer break to mess with the Canadian public's mind. They could have had that leadership convention. And there's always a bump in the polls during a leadership convention, just like Kamala Harris had a bump in the polls once she took the leadership of the Democrat Party in the States. It's happened throughout history, throughout the Canadian political history as well. And because our elections are so much shorter than they are in the States, they could have rode that wave out until the end. They could have rode it out all the way until October 30th. But because Jagmeet Singh pulled his support and they couldn't count on him not voting the government down, they decided that they had to go into this leadership convention early to basically bring the timeline forward. This was always their plan. They always intended to get rid of Justin Trudeau, to get a bump in the polls, and then go to the election before the Canadian public could really tune into who Mark Carney was. It's just that we're doing it 5 months early. But I think what they haven't counted on is how strong a personality and how strong a candidate Pierre Poilievre really is. Because once he starts campaigning, the gloves are off. He's going to wipe the floor with Mark Carney, at least for anyone who pays enough attention and who's actually concerned about Canada. Imagine if Mark Carney actually has the testicular fortitude to go up against Pierre Poilievre in a debate. Well, he's going to lose spectacularly. I'm actually wondering if he will, because that can only damage the Liberals. I'm hoping that he does, though, because that would be glorious to see. But that's just my opinion. I'd love to know what you think. Put your comments down below. And while you're at it, please like this video, share with your friends and on social media. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel and hit that bell notification so you never miss another video. Also, please join me on Thursday evenings at 6 p.m. Pacific time on both YouTube and Rumble for my live stream, where you're invited to join in on the conversation. Finally, if you wish to get your Canadian firearms license and you reside on Vancouver Island, I teach the required courses. So if you'd like to take a course from me, there are links in the show notes of this video to my website where you can sign up for one. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.